Hey everyone, we're here for the deck tech for the Abzan deck that I'm battling with in our versus video today against Mr. Thomas Ross. I'm BBD, and we are going to be battling for the first time with some cards from Battle for Zendikar. So we've done a few videos earlier in the week already, but this is going to be our first video with these cards, and at the time of us recording this, there have not been that many that have been released, so if you're wondering why we're not playing with whatever new awesome card is...
Sweet Allies or this Eldrazi ramp deck or something.
Yeah, it's because a lot of those cards haven't been spoiled yet by the time that we're filming this, and they'll probably be spoiled by the time it comes out, but that's the nature of time travel and the speed of things getting released or whatever.
So right now we're trying to fit the cards we've seen so far into existing archetypes we feel that will make the transition after Theros block loses standard.
And so far, there haven't been that many powerful cards. There have been a few sweet ones, and one of them, I think, is old Rob Nixilis. So let's go ahead and look at this deck and see how Ob Nixilis fits into it. So basically, this is just a Abzan control deck, kind of a carryover archetype from last season, and things are mostly the same. We do lose Courser Crufix, which is a big loss. But like our heroes' downfalls are now Ruinous Paths, which are basically the same thing. So we still have access to that type of effect. It's just sorcery speed instead of instant. We still have all these same removal spells, and like we still have like the Rhinos, the Nissas, the Den Protectors, Ugin, etc. I've slotted in Hangerback Walker into the deck, which was something that was not previously in Abzan control. But I think that it's actually a good fit. Now that we don't have Courser, we need something else that's cheap to really buy us some time against more aggressive strategies. And it's also just a really powerful card. It's good with Dromoka's Command. It's good with Abzan Charm. And it's also just something where we can, like, you know, tick it up for a while and then cast a Languish and just still have some tokens left over afterwards. So I think Hangerback is a pretty good fit in this deck. But the main new card here is Ob Nixilis Reignited. And I've always been an Ob Nixilis fan. I really liked him in original Zendikar. Just landfall and doming your opponent for 3 and getting giant. Wasn't a big fan of the second one, but I'm a huge fan of this Planeswalker. He looks really awesome. This is something that I've always wanted them to have a Planeswalker that was like Phyrexian Arena. That's just because Phyrexian Arena is one of my favorite cards of all time. And so seeing Ob Nixilis makes me really happy because he basically is a Phyrexian Arena Planeswalker that has some other utility as well. He can +1 draw a card and lose a life, but you can also -3 to kill a creature, so in a lot of ways he feels like kind of like a Vraska. You play him on turn 5, you kill their guy, and then next turn you get to start ticking up for value. And then his -8 is basically whenever a player would draw a card, your opponent takes 2. They get an emblem that says that, so that's actually pretty neat. Especially in this matchup where Tom's playing Sphinx's Tutelage. I feel like if I ever ultimate Ob Nixilis, he probably is not going to win. Yeah. I can, every time he draws a card, he gets to take 2. So
yeah, that's basically all my deck does. I'll be playing the blue-red Sphinx's Tutelage deck because not many of the cards from that rotate out, just Anger of the Gods, but I'm replacing that with Radiant Flames. We'll see how that goes. Which
is a fairly similar effect. But other than that, it's a pretty straightforward Abzan deck. One thing that's different is the mana base is actually a lot worse now. One, we don't have Urborg, so we actually have to rely on actual black sources. And then 2, even though the new dual lands are really awesome, they don't really actually help this deck that much because Windswept Heath can only get Canopy Vista, so already decks like this had issue with too much white and green mana and not enough black because of Windswept Heath, basically, and now it's just kind of adding on to that problem where Windswept Heath still only gets green and white lands. So you have to find black mana in other ways. Right now I'm relying on Sandstep Citadel, Scoured Barrens, and then a bunch of Pain lands, but hopefully at some point in time they're going to spoil one of the enemy creature lands. That's either going to be, I'm hoping for either the green-black one or the black-white one to slot into this deck. Mostly just for the mana fixing. Now, I don't care as much about the creature itself, although I'm sure it's really good in a strategy like this, but just having the mana fixing is nice. So the mana is actually a lot worse for Abzan. It gets a lot better for the shards like Naya or Bant or Jund or things that normally weren't that well supported in cons actually get a lot better mana because of the fetches. But 3-color things like Abzan are a little bit worse. But yeah, that's the main deck for the Abzan deck. Let's go ahead and look at the sideboard. Alright, so there's nothing too really new in the sideboard. Pretty standard stuff for the most part. A Ration Cleric for red decks, another Languish, some Self-Inflicted Wounds for the green or white decks, another Dromoka's Commander, that's good, some more Ultimate Prices, some Read the Bones. Where this sideboard really differs is instead of Thoughtseize, we have Duress now, because Thoughtseize is rotated out. Duress is a lot worse in a lot of ways, but it's still a really powerful card against control strategies, or like spell dense strategies like Sphinx's Tutelage, Jeskai Ascendancy, things like that. Duress is still a really good card against those decks, so I think that having access to Duress in your sideboard is going to be really important for decks like this, and it may even actually be a main deck card.
Yeah, I agree. Todd was playing them against me earlier, and it felt just as close to Thought's as it could be. I also played a pretty spell-heavy deck, but yeah, the 2 life not being paid definitely shown through. Like, you got the 2 in one of our games, just because Duress didn't pay 2 life, you know?
Yeah, that's definitely relevant. One thing looking at the sideboard that I'm noticing too is, like, if the format is pretty mid-range heavy, the sideboard's probably going to want more mid-range powerhouses, like things like Planeswalkers or Dromokas or whatever, to win some of the mid-range battles. Because right now there's a lot of like anti-control, anti-aggro cards in here, not as much anti-mid-range cards. So it's something to keep in mind depending on how the format shakes up.
Yep.
But anyway, that is the Abzan control deck featuring Ob Nixilis and Ruinous Path. Make sure you check out our video where I battle against Tom, who's playing a Sphinx's Tutelage deck. Doesn't have a whole lot in terms of new cards, but it's just a strategy that doesn't really lose much from the rotation, so easily could pick up in value because of that.
Right.